When you're at work and you're sitting at your desk, it might be embarrassing to really let out a good roar. But if you have a door you can close, this is a good one to do in your office. You can start by clenching everything up really, really tight, and then inhale and hold it really, really tight. And as you exhale, Bhakti Yoga is the path of self-realization through love for love's sake and through love and devotion. And we can roar out our devotion to whatever higher power we may believe in.
The question that we're talking about today, this evening, is this, in a nutshell. If we're not looking at the whole person and we're not looking at them in the way they want to be looked at, it's not going to ever be wellness. So it might be good sickness medicine. I think that what we offered up there on the hill was wonderful sickness medicine, and I wouldn't take a thing away from that. But until we give back to the individual the control over their entire life and history, we cannot possibly shoo them into wellness. They have to find their own way there. Our job is to help them with whatever tools we happen to be interested in, but you can't shoo them there. I know that for sure, because I tried when I started out. No, see, shoo in here. This is where I'm trained, so shoo in here. It can't happen that way. Modalities that I happen to offer have one thing in common. I'm interested in them, but my first job is to find out, what would it mean to you to be well?
Unfortunately, we're able to make really large financial mistakes these days. So people come in wanting to know, are they on the right track? What's preventing us from getting what we really want? Generally, it's emotions that are getting in our way. We track our expenses and we start to have plans and goals about how we're going to move forward. These are things that I help people do.
At Yoga Farm, we teach practices and tools that help our students and clients love and live in a healthy body.
And along the way, our students cultivate the garden of their life.
My idea of wellness is living in balance in one's body, mind, and spirit. The 3 stages of work that I offer people to come into balance: heal, sustain, and thrive.
I love coming to work. I am the slayer of the modern saber-toothed tiger. Those saber-toothed tigers, they come out of everywhere instead of out of nowhere the way they used to. What would light me up any quicker than saying, I can save people's lives now?
Love your body, take control of your time, steward your finances, tune into your intuition, balance your mind, and calm your emotions. Teaching Ithaca Wellness.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Howell, and I'm given the opportunity today to talk about something that I love to talk about, as we all do, myself, and for that I thank you, Allison. I'm all about the story, so let me start with my story and then tell you how I got to the story. My story, I needed a summer job, and my mother worked at Tompkins County Hospital, and she got me a job, and I fell in love with hospitals, or I thought that's what I fell in love with. Started working there at 15 years old. I went to college, worked my way through college working there, and I finished graduate school. I thought it's time to get a real career going. I took a master's degree in hospital administration, and I worked in a planning agency for 2 years, which I hated. It wasn't for me. I needed more people contact. I went back to Tioga Medical Center, had the opportunity to go back as a low-level member of the administrative staff, and given the opportunity in a very strange way, the person who was the CEO of the organization wonderful gentleman. I learned a lot from him. He had in a fight with the board, and the board, I believe, thought that he would come back and say that he was wrong and they were right and take his job back. On the other hand, he believed that they would come after him and say, you were right, we were wrong, please take your job back. I was a lowly young member, and I had a master's degree in health administration. And as I tell the story, they said, little girl, come over here. You're our new CEO, acting, of course. So for the next 27 years, I was the CEO of that organization, saw it through some exciting and interesting times in its transition from a county hospital to a regional medical center, and I loved every minute of it. I worked with people. The people decided that they wanted to work for an organization that was better than it had been, and so they did. And after 27 years, I had a chance to take early retirement, and I did because I thought I should. There were other younger people coming up in the organization wanting the same chance that I had had at 27. And they were, in their 40s and getting impatient, I thought. So I took early retirement and I went to greater New York area. Discovered that I couldn't afford to live in Manhattan. I don't think anybody can afford to live in Manhattan, but I could live in Jersey City and work in Manhattan. And so I did. And I worked for consulting and did agencies and did very well because I now had a lot of experience in healthcare administration. But once again, similar to planning agency, I didn't care for that kind of work. If you're in the greater New York City area, you can find an education on anything you're ever curious about. And so I said, here I am, and what is it that I really want to do? I have a trademark on conversational coaching, which surprised me more than it surprised anybody. It's a body of knowledge. And with the background I have, I can be a coach. Was able to get a coaching degree. At first, all I did was career coaching because I thought that makes sense. But people couldn't stay on the subject. I would say, I'm a career coach. And they would come in and they would sit down and they would want to talk about how their career impacts their family. How it's not just the fact that they hate their job, the whole family hates the job. And I thought, am I going to say to these people, sorry, you can't talk about your family. I'm a career coach. Better that they got to talk about what they wanted to talk about, and I went back and got some education. So then I took a serious, very, very serious coaching program in integrative coaching. It simply means that we are in the business of encouraging people to integrate their life, not disintegrate it so we can talk about it in segments if they find all the right places to go. And I did what everyone does when they start out in coaching. Find out what other people do, and I try to do it the same way. And the way all coaches and most counselors of any variety start out, the first visit is they have a 13-page questionnaire. So I had one too. And new people would come in, and we would dutifully go through these 13 pages. Well, now, Allison, I thought to myself one day, this person is struggling with this, and I'm struggling with it too. I wonder what would happen if I just turned it over and asked them what they wanted to talk about. So I did. And the short way of putting that is that I've never turned it back over. I only write on the back now. Because what I said to that individual was this: tell me your story. Start wherever you want, but end up, you're sitting in that chair over there across from me. And some people start basically when I was born. Other people start when I was married. Whenever they start their story, you're going to have to double back to that. By going through from there and ending up with being in that chair, it makes sense to them. They're there for a reason. It's not a random event. And they don't have to go through a process, anyone else's except theirs. And again, it's part of conversational coaching to say, how would you know when you feel well? That's not the same for everyone. And some people have no idea because they've never felt well. Whether it be emotionally or physically doesn't make one bit of difference. Usually it's some combination of things. One thing plays off in another thing. We are integrated bodies, are we not? How will you know when you're well and whole? Because we can't be sure we found it unless we start with how will you know? And we can go searching for more specificity, and then after that maybe we'll get to modalities. but you can't short-circuit the process. Well, there are a couple of other modalities, and one leads to the other, so I'll start with the easiest one. The easy ones are the ones we can put in the hands of our clients directly. And one of those is meditation. Meditation is the best stress reducer, the least expensive stress reducer that I can think of any place. And we don't do it. Why don't we do it? Because we've been taught that, well, meditation has to be done exactly right. And you have to go to India, I think, or China maybe they'll say, and you have to go and you have to get the exact way to do it, otherwise it doesn't work. And so that's wrong. And I knew it was wrong and thought, there's a lot of people missing out on a very, very effective health tool because they think there's only one way to do it. So I started writing the book for beginners, and then it morphed into something else because I have another group of clients that say, well, I would meditate, but I can't visualize. You know how you're supposed to put a picture in your mind, a very serene picture? We don't actually have to do that either. But I went to work with a photographer, a friend of mine, and we created a book with pictures, a meditation book with pictures. How can you resist? The pictures are designed to give subject matter to the meditation, as people seem to be able to learn to meditate easier if they're meditating about something. So that was the premise of that. And I do teach meditation. I believe in it. I use it myself. Used anywhere. Totally portable. No trick to it. We're just being honest. So I have a trademark on conversational coaching, and I have a book title. I call my book Meditation by Nature, because I believe that meditation is part of our nature. We made it all hard, but real meditation, downtime. After being chased by a saber-toothed tiger and outrunning him or beating him down, you didn't have a whole lot of downtime out there in the jungle, but in your head you knew. We use cleansing breaths in childbirth to make it go easier on us. We're designed to be able to de-stress ourselves. It was not meant to be something that had to be institutionalized. Out there in the jungle, I could meditate. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. Meditation by nature. So from the interest in meditation, I then moved and became a hypnotherapist. Most people think of hypnosis as something that people do in Las Vegas, where folks come up on the stage and someone makes them act like chickens and they run around. I'm not putting that down. It's fine and entertaining. Hypnotherapy is really more akin to meditation than it is to stage hypnosis. It's a way for you as the client to work with me as the hypnotherapist to bring your own faculties to bear on issues. It's the same thing as meditation, only introduce another person into and I love it for that reason. It works for things that we never realized that it did, and it works with kids as well. Both to learn meditation, age 3 to 17, you do it in a certain way. And then there's another way to work with adults. So very little children as well as nearly grown children can benefit. Biofeedback is a way to give data to a client that helps them control the real #1 killer that we're all facing, and that's stress. And we had biofeedback. It used to have its own room at the hospital, biofeedback room. Had to have lead walls, had to have this, had to be so big. Although the biofeedback unit that I use with my clients is about this big. They plug it Now they're coming with one that will work off the iPhone, but that's another story. It's about that big, and they take it home with them. They spend one session with me in the office learning how to use it. Because my job is not to sell episodic medicine. Okay, I sold you one biofeedback visit. Okay, and if you come back, I'll maybe sell you 2 or 3, and that's fine. But now I send you home with a unit. If they choose to buy it, it costs about $300. If they don't choose to buy it, they can just lend it. I lend it to them for open-ended periods of time. And it does exactly what those big biofeedback units used to do. That's what we have to start taking advantage of. Now, what is it that we can both justify the efficacy and the expenditure, and not have to proliferate ongoing visits in order to justify having it, having a bigger service area, have more. Kids as young as 3 can be taught how to use the biofeedback to teach themselves how to control their stress. Stress will kill you, people. And if you don't get your arms around it, it's going to kill you and people you love. And I'll tell you exactly how it does it. See, back when there were saber-toothed tigers roaming the earth, we had to be able to run or fight when we're faced with that tiger. And we made that decision someplace in our biology, and we either fought the tiger or we ran from it. It's over. Stress is gone. Don't walk in the jungle that way not anymore. For a while I might not be stressed again until the next time. That was stress. And our little reptilian brain, as we still refer to it, knew exactly what to do when we're stressed in the moment. Pump adrenaline. Pump cortisol. Pump more of it. Keep pumping it until the saber-toothed tiger is either dead or out of sight. How do you do that today? People are on stress mode. Their poor little reptilian brain, if you can think of it this way, never gets to go off duty. It is constantly trying to help you do what your brain, the one that evolved into modern society, is telling it to do. See, when you look out there and you say, oh no, a traffic jam, oh no, your reptilian brain hears saber-toothed tiger. It starts pumping cortisol, starts pumping adrenaline into your system. But cortisol and adrenaline are powerful stimulants. And your reptilian brain, trying to keep you out of the reach of saber-toothed tigers or traffic, is killing your immune system. That's what goes first. The immune system, because it can't handle having all that cortisol, all that adrenaline pumped in all the time. And then every other system in the human body follows suit. Cardiac, we all know the cardiac relationship. Most of us aren't truly aware of the problem with our immune system. Might say something about, what we're susceptible to, and what we're not, and what we can fight off, and what we're not. I tell you for sure, if you have no immune system, you can't fight off very much. How can this part of the brain not evolve at all? It does exactly the same thing it did back in the days of the saber-toothed tiger. Whereas this brain, part of the brain, has changed so dramatically as society's become more complicated. The brain has more complicated wiring up here. Not back here. Could slay that tiger for our own sake. You know what we do? We take little kids in kindergarten, and I walked by this daycare facility every day when I walked into New York to go to school. Ivy League daycare. Ivy League daycare? I mean, listen, I went to an Ivy League school. I'm proud of it. However, I don't think kids need to be bothered with, did you go to an Ivy League daycare or not? And yet they do, don't they? If they don't get in the right daycare when they're 5, they're not going to get in the right university when they're 20. That's a lot of pressure, little kids. And I love kids. Some people say I have a way with them. I think they have a way with me. So what I do with kids is to try to teach parents, the child is stressed. No, I'm not. There's no blame here. I put together a parenting program. And you can teach better skills than some people have, and bless their heart, if they will come and get them, that's fine. But in the meantime, if they're doing okay, and now you tell them they're stressing their kindergartner and possibly ruining their immune system, that is the kind of stress that most parents can't take right now. So there doesn't have to be blame. This has to be fun things to play with and purpose in what we do with them. I love working with young women starting out in their career, trying in some ways desperately to get it right and not having a whole lot of support. I like to work with them and give them the tools that I didn't have. I think I had it much easier. And now I secretly fear that all that marching and carrying on that I did in the 60s, so you all could have it all. Maybe you don't thank me for it now. I had it all, meaning I had my children and I had a career. I didn't know I had it all. If someone had told me I had it all, I might have enjoyed it more. But if that's the legacy that you think I left you, come here, we need to talk. Having it all is one thing. Trying to do it all is something else. Most of what I had and most of what you younger women think you need to have is doing it all. You need to be comfortable with just a couple of concepts. Good enough parents and spending enough time at work. Simple, right? You don't have to be a perfect parent. Even if you are, you will not raise perfect children. Second thing is enough time at work. I know what it's like to always think you should be someplace else. I've felt it. If I was at home with my children, or if I took a day off to go with them on a field trip, I would think, well, if I was a man, somebody else would be doing this and I'd be at work. But if I was at work at a board meeting at 10 o'clock at night, and I left before my kids got up in the morning and they were back in bed before I got home at night, I would think to myself, if I was a decent mother, I'd be home with my kids. You see how we set it up? We can't win, can we? What I intended to do when I marched in the 60s, I wanted to win. Now I want you to win. If you don't win, there's no point, right? So it's not that you have to do it all better, it's that you just have to question whether you really want to do it all. If you could stop doing some things, what would they be? Very seldom does that question get answered easily. You are just like me. I never wanted to admit I couldn't do it all. My job is to give you some tools so doing it all won't be as hard. Your job is to ratchet down a little bit on the need to do it all. The one will make you just as sick as the other. I promise that. If you have health issues and you want to feel well and whole, I want that. I want to work with that. I want to help that. But also, if you feel as though you just can never be relaxed and happy. I don't feel sick, I just don't feel happy. And people say, you mean I get to say I'm not happy? Where did it go out of style to be happy? And that's perhaps, it's not as an expensive problem. You're not going to buy that, are you? Yes, healthcare is obviously expensive. And because of the way that we've chosen to fund it, through the employer-based system, we've created a generation of people who are afraid to be sick, who stay in jobs they hate because they have to have the health insurance. This is the way they talk when they come in. I have to have the health insurance. I hate this job. I'm being harassed. I'm being this, that. But I can't leave. I just want you to make me feel happier about it. There's a reason why we're the only country that does it that way. It doesn't work. That's why. Simple. It's not working, and we have to do something about it, and we have to do something quickly. And there'll be people working at it at a lot of different levels. I think that sometimes we forget the most basic level of all. That's that individual, that sick patient, that person who's afraid to be sick. That's sad. That's the sad story that I can't leave alone. I don't want to leave alone. I want to help. I was one of the people who came through the ranks of traditional Western medicine and into administration, and that was very much a part of me. I saw that what's getting away from us It's not affordable for even 3/4 of us, let alone all of us as citizens, as a country. You're not going to be able to afford health care. You're not going to be able to afford health care for your employees if it's what your business is. Well, we can start introducing some of the Eastern modalities, which are just less expensive because they don't depend on a ton of technology. And the other thing is that in Eastern medicine, the technology has come into play, but it's not expensive in the same way that it was for me as a hospital CEO to justify budget expenditures. State of the art had to have whatever the latest and the greatest was, because that's the way you're judged. Do you have an MRI? Do you have a neurosurgical program? And then you're judged as an organization. Somehow or another, our patients got lost sight of, because not everyone needs an MRI, but we got to pay for the one we have. So don't a lot of people need an MRI? If people come and they say they can't afford what I charge, then I try to see them anyway. If I think I can be helpful to them, that's what I can do now in my life, because I worked for a long time. It's good to be able to say, I want you to know what I didn't know. I want you to think about what you may not have thought about, and only to control something that you're doing just naturally. There's no bad guy here. Why does this soul light up on the subject of, some might call it Eastern medicine, we used to call it alternative? I light up when I know I can teach people things they can do in their own home, they can do in their car on the way to work, that can save their life. Most hospital CEOs, I'll tell you the truth, are frustrated physicians. At least that's what I was told. I didn't believe it then, but maybe I believe it now. However, if that be true, then what better thing could I be doing? What would light me up any quicker than saying, I can save people's lives now? Our reptilian brain grew up with a much less developed frontal lobe and a whole lot of less things to worry about. And now we're smarter and better, and we have lots of stuff. But our stress is much more complicated, isn't it? Those saber-toothed tigers, they come out of everywhere instead of out of nowhere the way they used to. So I'll leave you with that thought, if I may, and I am the slayer of the modern saber-toothed tiger that lives in our heads and tells us that we're always doing it wrong.
Voices and hearts come to sing together. Oh yeah, so maybe we want to begin by just taking a few deep breaths together.
Next week on Teaching Ithaca Wellness.
Hello, my name is Daniel Kaya Fusen, and I am an energy worker. Everything is energy. Your body, your thoughts, and every spiritual resonance that exists in and around you is a vibrating wave of light. When any of these levels of energy are out of tune, it manifests as stress, a weakened immune system that can't fight off disease, and pure bad moods on a regular basis. If you would like to learn the core causes of whatever ails you, you often have to look in places you might not expect. That is why I teach you mental, physical, and spiritual exercises to bring these different layers of yourself into tune and actually enable you to take the energy that's been invested in disease and worry and negativity and put it into your true dreams.